Hello and welcome to another episode of the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Connor Moreno, lead writer for UCLA Bruins on SI. And today, this week, we're going to go ahead into getting into some discussions on who are the likely candidates to replace DeShaun Foster for UCLA's head coaching gig. Obviously, we talked about it last episode. UCLA went ahead and relieved DeShaun Foster of his duties following their New Mexico loss in Week 3. DeShaun Foster, it was kind of a tumultuous time in UCLA. I do think that there were some highs, though. You can look at the recruiting. You can look at his ability to connect with players. You can also look at the second half of last season when UCLA kind of went on an upwards trajectory, but it was pretty evident that DeShaun Foster probably wasn't the best candidate to lead UCLA, especially given the situation that they were in moving into the Big Ten, and all of that stuff, and even athletic director Martin Jarman for UCLA said that he does kind of regret putting DeShaun Foster in that situation. But hindsight is always 20/20. I'm sure that he thought that that hire was going to work out pretty well. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into part one of our kind of most intriguing names that have been linked to UCLA to replace DeShaun Foster. I think we're going to lean more towards some younger program builders that can last a long time in UCLA, hopefully looking for some culture setters, some really good personalities, and I think that these few names are going to be some good ones. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first name that we have is Alex Golesh. He is the head coach for South Florida. He's one of the fastest rising names in all of college football. This season, he's led the Bulls to back-to-back upsets against number 25 Boise State and number 13 Florida. And the thing is that UCLA might not be the only one that's going to be clamoring for the 41-year-old Golesh. He is a great personality. He has a ton of experience, more experience than DeShaun Foster had when he first took the job. What makes Golesh interesting to me, I think, is because he has some connections to Nico Iamaleava. You're probably thinking, even before the season, you would never think that Nico would be an important figure going into next season, because you would have thought that he would have had a really good year and he'd be, NFL bound after the season. But given all the circumstances, not only is DeShaun Foster out, not only is this likely a lost season for UCLA, but put it frankly, Nico has not been as good as many thought he'd be this season. So all that to say is that Golesh, I think, is a massive factor in being able to retain Iamaleava. I wouldn't be surprised if Nico enters the transfer portal. Golesh was Tennessee's offensive coordinator when Tennessee recruited Iamaleava, so they have that connection there. They have that prior connection. I think Golesh would be a great way to kind of retain a star quarterback and really kickstart this new era of UCLA football. And that's one of the main reasons, but the other reasons is that he's young. He is a good personality. He can rebuild a culture, rebuild a program, and I think UCLA needs that right now. The next one, Brian Hartline, offensive coordinator for Ohio State. He's one of the most respected offensive coordinators in the nation. He's also a really great wide receivers coach. All those Ohio State receivers that have turned into NFL talents, they are products of him. He can instantly make a recruiting impact at wide receiver and at the quarterback position, something that UCLA is definitely going to need to address once Iamaleava is gone. He's young. He has championship experience. He can easily connect with players, similar to the way that Foster was able to, because, that was, a really good quality of DeShaun Foster, being able to connect to players, being able to recruit players. And not only can Hartline do that, but he also has some coordinator experience and championship experience. He's versed in play calling in the elite Big Ten conference, and he has an elite Big Ten offense. Just like Golesh, Hartline can be a reason for Iamaleava to stay. The only downsides about Hartline, though, is that he really doesn't have any connection to Southern California. It could put a wrinkle in some of his recruiting efforts. Regardless, the Bruins have done a good job at recruiting across the country, even though some of those recruits have already left or decommitted from UCLA. But if Hartline does is able to put together a staff that is SoCal based, I wouldn't see that being a problem. If anything, I think Heartline could reach beyond Southern California to bring some top prospects in while his staff is able to, create a foundation locally. So that was Heartline. Up next, they're not immediately connected to UCLA, but they would be some interesting names in terms of, they're being young and being culture setters. Scotty Walden, head coach for UTEP, my hometown, El Paso. Walden, he's one of the youngest, most dynamic coaches in the nation. He's Texas-born. He's pioneering a new culture in El Paso, which may be of unique interest for UCLA just to be able to create a new culture. Even though I would say DeShaun Foster created a really good culture in Westwood, he just lacked, I guess we could say, coaching ability. Walden's tenure leading the Miners hasn't started the best. I mean, UTEP is 4-11 through his first 2 seasons, but the change that he's fostering within the program is pretty tangible, not only around UTEP, but around El Paso. He's one of the many long shots, I would say, though, but if Martin Jarmond and the Bruins are looking for a young, fiery culture setter, I don't think Walden should be overlooked. Speaking of long shots, speaking of young, speaking of culture setters, let's talk about Kenny Dillingham for Arizona State. He might be the longest shot of them all, but is he really? I mean, Dillingham has done a tremendous job. He's one of the loudest, most dynamic coaches in the nation, most talked about, most popular coaches in the nation for the job that he's done turning around the Sun Devils. Sure, Arizona State as a program, they're in a better spot than UCLA. I mean, they just made a miraculous run to the college football playoff. But imagine if Dillingham was surrounded by more resources, better facilities, in a stronger conference, and most importantly, had more money to go around. I mean, just imagine that. The Bruins, they can certainly outbid Arizona State for Dillingham. And if Jarman and UCLA's reported search committee are serious about landing a program changer and a culture setter, then they seriously need to consider throwing all the money they can at Kenny Dillingham. Up next, we have C.J. Kinney for Texas State. He's their head coach. He's been lauded as one of the best rebuilders in college football. Before taking over Texas State in 2002, the Bobcats hadn't had a winning season in 9 years. Since being hired at Texas State, though, they've won 2 consecutive bowl games, and they're off to a 2-1 start to the season. In the early stages of the coaching carousel, Kinney is a name being mentioned frequently as someone who could potentially upgrade programs. He's at the ripe age of 36. He has already more coaching experience than DeShaun Foster ever had, and he's a proven resume of changing programs. So those are the first few names that we went ahead and got to. Tomorrow, we're going to get into another slew of names that we're kind of hearing around UCLA. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. We'll see you tomorrow.